The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
And you're going to love it.
Okay, let's go.
Let's talk about Trump for a minute, because and I'll say this because you've been on record saying it, that you voted for him. I voted for him. So I'm not ashamed of that. And I know you're not ashamed of it. By the same token, I'll speak for myself and then I'll let you speak. I've been very vocal about the criticisms I've had about things that have happened, the criticisms about Doge. I think in concept, it's great, but there's no transparency there. You know, I'm not so naive just to believe everything that comes out of Elon Musk's mouth because he's a billionaire. That doesn't work with me, you know, as a critical thinker. And I know it doesn't work with you. And so, you know, I have a lot of concerns about even Trump right now. Like, I don't feel he's the same guy that he was in maybe 2016, maybe even 2020. I just feel like, I don't know, man, something's different. And I'm seeing maybe the breakdown of what he claimed was the deep state, and they're almost forming their own techno-oligarch deep state of their own. You know, it's like, it's very concerning. And I'm concerned about war with Iran. That to me feels like that is like, they're just setting us up for that. What do you think's going on? All right. So I woke up to a voicemail from my buddy Jake, and he's like, Dustar, what are you, Geraldo Rivera? Like, what is this, Al Capone's vault? He's like, what's with these cliffhangers, man? Stop dragging it out. Tell us what you think. I don't care if it has to be a 40-minute episode. Dude, I've been like waiting all night to hear what you had to say. Oh my God. I'm not kidding, man. Talk about waking up and just laughing my butt off for the first 5 or 6 minutes of my morning. That's fun, man. That's fun. Keep them coming. Again, for all my East Coast, Midwest, and my international friends. I do have some international fans. And shout out to my neighbor, not Matt Leinart. He texted me yesterday and he goes, I'm a fan. And I was like, you know what? Not Matt Leinart. I appreciate that. Thank you, buddy. He's actually probably okay with me saying his name, but you know what? I think it's funnier. And I think it's funnier for him when he hears me refer to him as not Matt Leinart. Because I'm telling you, the dude looks like Matt Leinart. His wife doesn't really think that, but I think she's just doing that so he doesn't get a big head about it. Hey, by the way, I am working on a complete health episode where I'm going to go into, I've tracked my diet for the past couple weeks, and I'm trying to use ChatGPT and a couple other AI tools to kind of really flesh it out. But I'm going to share with you guys everything I eat, and we're going to talk all about that stuff. But before I do that, just a pro tip, man. I am so into peanut butter these days. It is insane. Literally right now, as I'm recording this podcast, I took about 4 strawberries. I cut them in half, and then I used a spatula and I scooped some peanut butter on them. Strawberries with peanut butter. Absolutely delicious. A lot of people eat bananas with peanut butter, but I'm not a huge banana fan because even though they are supposedly super high in potassium, which they are, they also do have, unfortunately, much higher sugar levels. So I'd rather do strawberries, which do not have high sugar levels. And then I put the peanut butter, I scoop the peanut butter on them, like I said, with a spatula. That's a solid snack, bros. That is a solid snack. Try it if you need something for like a mid-afternoon or early evening snack. All right. Okay, so let's see. All right, so that little beginning clip was the clip I'm going to play the rest of from the interview with J Slay USA, Jeremy Slayton. It is from Tuesday, I believe. And if you didn't get a chance to listen to it, I'd highly recommend you listen to it over the weekend. That's another video podcast, by the way. Again, I know you guys know this, but all of my interviews are video podcasts. So if you are on the treadmill and you're listening through Spotify, you can actually watch it on video. And if you watch it on YouTube, it's going to be on video. But then Apple Podcasts, iHeart, Pandora, Audible, Amazon Music, all those places, that's just the audio. Anyway, it's a really good episode, soup to nuts, but the ending was just great. And so, I have a slightly, now that I've thought through what he said, I do have a slightly different opinion myself about it, but I think the core of what Jeremy talked about is absolutely at play. And I think it applies to Trump. I think it applies to Elon Musk. And I think it applies to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. So before I get into those three guys and other things from before, let's listen again to what Jeremy talked about. And again, this is in regards to Trump only.
I'll speak in some general terms here. I'm just going to speak my mind, okay?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I think he is a different guy than he was in 2016. In 2016, he made fun of Marco Rubio and other politicians for taking money from the Adelsons. He said there'll be an Israeli puppet in the White House. They're taking all this Adelson money. Now, who's taken more money than anybody from the Adelsons in history? Donald Trump. And you add the hundreds of millions from AIPAC over the last 3 voting cycles or campaigns, and it's hundreds of millions there. I mean, this is a man who's gone from being, I think, in opposition to I think what we saw in 2016, where he shocked the world and all of the corporate media, the leftist media was just up in arms. I think that was real. I don't think that was the staged act. And I think he was a very powerful figure at the time. And I think in 2020, I think they were still scared of it. They didn't want him. I do think the 2020 election was stolen.
All right, I did want to jump in really quick right here because I did have, more than one person say, hey, I loved the interview with Jeremy, but he just kind of lost me a little when he said he thought the 2020 election was stolen. And listen, I don't want to get into a big argument about that, but I would just ask you, with everything that you now know and have seen about COVID and really what it was and more importantly, what it wasn't, okay? And then remember Bernie's Blackout, the documentary that I really encourage all of you to watch that talks about the 2020 election. And then, man, I did an entire episode. I can't remember the episode number, but if you don't want to watch the documentary, go back and find my Bernie's Blackout episode where I literally played the entire documentary and then I narrated over it. And again, all I'm saying is, okay, if you don't agree with that which he just said, do not let that cloud the rest of the things he's talking about. And again, all I'd ask you is just think like, okay, I don't agree with the 2020 election being stolen, but is it plausible? Come on, it's definitely plausible. You have to admit that. You really do. I really think even if you decide, okay, it's plausible, but I don't agree, fantastic. That's totally cool. And that's totally fair. But again, I had a couple people say a few things to me, and I don't want that to cloud. First of all, the rest of the episode was amazing, but especially cloud kind of what he talks about here.
But I think they've been formulating a plan because they saw the American people are really losing trust in our election integrity. Even the baby boomers are like not believing us anymore after COVID. We've got to give them something to reframe their belief or reinvigorate their belief in our voting system. And nobody's going to believe it if Kamala Harris wins. So we're going to put up a puppet like Kamala, versus somebody that seems all American and all this stuff. And he's absolutely going to win. In terms of the assassination attempt, here's my thought on that, because I think it plays a role. I don't know who took the shot. I don't care about that kid. I do think he was allowed to go up there. I think he could have been a total patsy. I think that there was a shot taken
Okay, let me jump in here because this is going to get important, and then this is going to also be after a lot of my own personal research and thoughts. Really, since Tuesday, I kind of maybe differ a little bit with where Jeremy's going to take this now. Whereas on Tuesday, I think I was maybe more like, okay, yeah, that sounds totally right. And two things. One is that kid, man, I don't even, what is his name? Matthew something, something, the kid that looks like he weighed like a $120 wet out of the shower and, looks like I don't even want to insult the poor kid. He's dead. Anyway, that there's no way that kid was the person that took the shot. That kid was a total setup patsy. Obviously, I don't know who, why, what, where, all that. But here's how I know there's much, much more to it than just that. And honestly, I'd ask you to think about this. So, Trump's the president now. He has literally not done one thing to investigate his own assassination attempt. And this is Donald Trump, by the way. Like, if there's anybody who wants to get to the bottom of things that involve him, I mean, think of Russia, all of these lawsuits, all of this stuff. He doesn't let things go, especially trying to assassinate him. But think about it. He now is the president of the United States, and it's been over 60 days. He signed like 12 gajillion executive orders and obviously is said so many things, but not once did he say, and by the way, America, I am going to figure out and get to the bottom of who tried to kill me. Okay? Nothing. Radio silence. And quite frankly, it was radio silence after it happened, the day after it happened. It happened on a Saturday. And if you remember, he spoke at the Republican National Convention that Thursday. And again, if you remember, I was exceptionally disappointed at his speech. I thought he was not a changed guy. I don't think anything really changed him about that. And the reason is, and this is where I'm going to differ from where Jeremy's about to take it, is I don't know who took the shot. Actually, I think him and I agree on that. But what I will say is this collective entity that Trump himself refers to and Elon refers to and all these guys refer to as the deep state, the globalists, we've talked about that term. And I think in the Greg Stoker interview, we talked about that term. I really don't know who that is. I really don't. I don't know who is all included in that. But I think that group, which again probably has more power than we know of in this world, I think they were the ones behind it, and they went to Trump after and said, see, son, we can take you out anytime we want. And then more importantly, maybe he said, and we can take your kids out and your grandkids, and anything we want to do, we can do. So you need to get in line. And yeah, if you win, you win. Great. But you need to realize it's not like Eddie Murphy in Beverly Hills Cop where he busts through the door and he's like,
well, look, Hoss, you start running a respectable business, and I won't have to come in here and hassle you every night. You know what I mean? There's a new sheriff in town, and his name is Reggie Hammond. Y'all be cool. Right on.
Yeah, in this case, they're like, yeah, your name is not Reggie Hammond, and there is not a new sheriff in town. So anyway, this is it, man. That assassination attempt, Trump has been a different guy since then. He really has. And like I said, for me, the biggest proof of that is He has not looked into it at all, like 0%. And again, remember that kid, whatever his name was, Matthew something, like what 20-year-old anarchist kid has no social media profile? Come on. That's like what they live for in order to be able to get their message out. So, anyway, again, I think that was the beginning of a change. And I think that that change has continued to this day. And I think we're seeing the ramifications of that, and we're going to continue to see the ramifications of that. Now, let's listen to a little more of what Jeremy said. And again, this is where, after I've really kind of, I don't know, had a heart to heart with myself in some ways, I do think that, I think there is a entity. I don't really know what that entity is right now, but let's listen to what he says.
Because the Zionist, the real money in this world, the real power in this world right now is coming out of Israel and coming out of Jewish interests across the world. Israel's just like the heartbeat, but it's around the world, and they have so much freaking money and power and control. I think they took that shot and they thought, if we kill him, great. We'll put in somebody like Nikki Haley that already wants to do everything that we want us. We won't have to even pay her. She signs bombs for us.
Okay, so like I said, for me right now, I'm kind of thinking it's probably even bigger than that. But by the way, for those that don't know what he's talking about, Nikki Haley literally put her John Hancock on bombs that ended up being used in this whole Gaza war. And again, like, that's just, I don't know, man. That is just sick to me. Signing bombs that literally will lead to the death of women and children. That's literally disgusting to me. And I think Josh Shapiro, the governor of, oh my God, I'm blanking on the state. What state is he the governor of? Josh Shapiro. Oh my God. Pennsylvania. Jesus, man. Too much nonsense knowledge in my brain. Gets confused. Okay, so anyway, Josh Shapiro did the same thing. I don't know. Although Josh Shapiro's, he was signing them for Zelensky in Ukraine. I still think that's all like disgusting to me. Okay, let's listen to the rest of Jeremy's.
Yes, she does.
If we don't kill him, he'll know absolutely who's in charge, and that if he steps out of line on these big geopolitical issues, we'll take him out, or we'll take out his family. So I think, and then they dumped money into his campaign, and all of a sudden, people like Mark Zuckerberg are on board, and all of a sudden, Jeff Bezos is on board, and Elon Musk is on board.
Now, again, that is a very good point, but those guys also, that tech billionaire oligarch crew, I mean, those guys are on board with whatever butters their bread. So I do agree with them that obviously there was a tremendous polar shift in what those guys were supporting, because in 2020 they were supporting Biden and everything the Democrat side was doing. But that doesn't surprise me that they just kind of, changed their modus operandi. Kind of like Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia changes with the wind as well, whichever is in their benefit. Gosh, maybe that's not a bad strategy. It's kind of duplicitous.
That is the true, I don't even call them the deep state. I want to call them the global handlers at the top. They sent down the message through all their channels and said, we're going to make a switch. We can get it done through Trump now. We can do what we want through Trump. And most of the people, most of the baby boomers, and most of the conservative incorporated influencers will go along with it.
All right. So, again, I do agree with that. I think that, there kind of was an edict that, okay, you know what? This just isn't working the way we're doing things through the Democrat side. So now let's go back to the Republicans. And by the way, I will say this. I've talked about this several times. Our dad always told us that the Democrats and Republicans are two heads of the same snake, and they bounce the ball back and forth. And honestly, I did always believe that, but I did think 2016 Trump and maybe even 2020 Trump did not fall into that category. But now I am completely certain, and I've totally changed my mind, that I think 2025 Trump falls into that category. And we're right back to where we were before, two heads of the same snake. I really don't think there's any difference, but they're just kind of giving you a different sort of lay of the land. Listen to what Jeremy says.
Because we gave them such nonsense and such crazy leftist bullshit for 4 years.
I did have to jump in and correct that. Now, again, remember the Greg Stoker definitions. It wasn't leftist bullshit. It was liberal bullshit. Remember, liberal is Obama, Biden, Pelosi, Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, AOC, everybody. Leftist is more the progressive centrist, which quite frankly is pretty much just Bernie Sanders.
That now just giving people some common sense stuff, and regarding gender and a little bit better policy on the border, possibly a little bit better economy, and not doing insane things like having transgender dances on the White House lawn. Like if we just give them that, then they'll go along with whatever war we want, whatever expansion that Netanyahu wants. I think that that's what's happening. So yes, while I approve of Trump's policies at the ground level in America, for the most part, from the day-to-day perspective, I'm very leery and suspicious about what's going on at a deeper and higher level that he really has no choice about. I think that he is a controlled president that's acting tough.
A controlled president that's acting tough. I mean, that's pretty solid, man. That is pretty solid. Okay, anyway, so that was, for the most part, Jeremy's take on it. And like I said, I mean, I think in concept, my biggest area of agreement is that I do think that shot in Butler, Pennsylvania on July, I think it was like July 13th or July 23rd, 2024. I think that changed everything. I really do. And I think that's why we're seeing a different guy. And by the way, it's not just Jeremy that has picked up on this.
Why on earth would Trump be attacking Thomas Massie and then endorsing Lindsey Graham? There's got to be deals or something going on behind the scenes because there are some very strange decisions being made and the deep state still goes hard. Senator Lindsey Graham is working incredibly hard for the great people of South Carolina, a state I love and won big in 2016, 2020, and 2024. Lindsey has been a wonderful friend to me and has always been there when I needed him. As the chair of the Senate Budget Committee, Lindsey is fighting tirelessly to grow the economy, lower taxes, and eliminate government waste. Senator Lindsey Graham has my complete and total endorsement for re-election. He will not let you down. Everyone in South Carolina should help Lindsey Graham win big next.
All right, that is a gal on TikTok and Instagram. She's got a huge following collectively, like close to 1 million people. And she's like super blonde, very good looking, by the way, MAGA Republican chick. And again, I talk about their physical appearance. Well, when I say she's super hot, that's just more of a compliment. But when I say that, like white, the reason I'm bringing that up, blonde white, is because I do think that matters. Again, like hearing bad stuff about Trump from people that have Trump derangement syndrome, it doesn't really hit as hard. But when you hear someone who voted for Trump, like Jeremy, like this gal Kelsey, when you hear these people who look the part of a diehard through and through Trump supporter and who look the part of somebody you would label as MAGA, basically coming out and questioning Trump. I love that. I love that. And I think it matters. And that's why, I describe their appearance to you, because I want you to know that this crack in the wall is happening in his base, okay? It's happening with the people that, potentially at one point could be categorized as Trump worship syndrome people. And so for Trump to come out and endorse Lindsey Graham as hard as he has, and then basically try to go after Thomas Massie, if you guys have been listening, I am a huge fan of Thomas Massie. and I am a huge not fan of Lindsey Graham. He's probably my number one on my list of the most awful human beings, followed closely by Benjamin Netanyahu, who's number 2.
Year. Lindsey is one of the biggest warmongering, traitorous rhinos that we have on our payroll. I would put him about the same level as Nancy Pelosi. And this is the kind of stuff that he's said about Trump. So what the hell is going on?
Let's just put it this way, Joe. How long have we been doing this? 20 years. Donald Trump is the most unelectable Republican I've seen in my lifetime. So if you really want to make Hillary Clinton president of the United States, vote for Donald Trump. Dishonest beats crazy. Every problem we had in 2012, he's made worse with women, with Hispanics.
Thomas Massie is one of the only good ones we have left, if not the only good one. So who is Trump taking the terrible advice from? We voted for America First, which is not Deep State First, War Machine First, or Israel First.
So again, man, base MAGA, man, I'm telling you, the walls are starting to crack a little in base MAGA. Like a gal like that, I went back and looked through all her posts going all the way back to 2020, and man, she is all in on Trump like crazy. Again, I'd say before maybe her last, I don't know, 10 or 15 posts, actually, before Trump took office. Again, inauguration, because here's the thing, he was playing the same role prior to the inauguration, and proof of that is also, think about the Arab American community, especially in Dearborn, Michigan. I don't know if I talked about this or not, but I think I did. I know I definitely did on social media, where I was like, you can't say Trump is Islamophobic. Look, all of these imams and all of these, mosques again, it was focused around Dearborn, Michigan, if you remember, but these guys were all supporting Trump, and Trump went there and he talked to everybody, and he's like, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to end the war in Gaza, da. Man, it's been the complete opposite ever since inauguration. And so when I go look at, again, Kelsey's profile and all of her posts, you could see January 20th, rah, 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 rah. And then as we started to get into even early February, she's like, wait a minute, what's he talking about? Wait a minute, what's he talking about? Wait a minute, why is he doing this? Wait a minute, why is he doing that? And so you've noticed, so I'm telling you, man, people are getting hip to this. Now, again, whether is it the deep state, is it the warmongers, is it Israel, whatever it is, it's something. I don't know what that something is. I'm at a point now where I'm trying to take a step back, and I'm trying to really understand and look and see the various players involved. And before I decide whether it's one organization or one entity, or honestly, it's just the collective, and maybe that collective doesn't necessarily have a common thread besides their desire for money and control. All right, here's another one. Give this a listen.
Now Donald Trump is threatening to primary Thomas Massie, and it is not going the way he thought it would. I don't know what happened with the Donald Trump presidency, but it has gone off the rails. It started when they didn't release the Epstein files, and everybody started to get a little concerned. And then the finger pointing started happening.
By the way, some of you might recognize this guy's voice. It's a guy named Luke David Johnson. He's a big Christian as well. He's got a huge TikTok following, I think like 500,000, maybe more, and probably a couple 100,000 on Instagram. So again, here's another guy that has been a real advocate of Trump over the past 4 to 6 years. He was a very outspoken voice against the COVID stuff. So I only discovered him maybe like 6 months ago, but I really like him. He's very well spoken. He's very unemotional. He brings receipts. He does a really nice job. And again, here's another guy that I think initially, you could have said has Trump worship syndrome, and again, like the gal before, I think as soon as inauguration happened, he's like, wait a minute, who's this?
The next thing we knew, there was this big deal about anti-Semitism for some reason. Right after announcing that we're cutting off all foreign aid, you gave $12 billion to the foreign state of Israel. And we've seemingly run out of illegal immigrants to deport because now we're deporting legal residents with no criminal history who came to the country the right way and got their green card because they exercised their free speech rights by protesting a genocide on their college campus. Now you have the White House, which just made English the official language of the United States, by the way, posting cheeky Israeli propaganda on social media in Hebrew. We were supposed to get the Epstein files. We were supposed to have transparency. We were supposed to put America first. We were supposed to stop funding terrorists. Now we are literally giving $12 billion to the people who, for some reason, have something on the people in our government. The President of the United States and the people who work for him are absolutely terrified of Israel.
All right, again, I'm playing this stuff for you guys because it is out there in a big way. It really is. This is not fringe anymore, okay? Now, I do understand this guy and the gal before. I mean, they've kind of zeroed it in on the Israel thing. I mean, I'll be honest, maybe I thought that before, but I've kind of expanded my net, actually, to be honest. So I'm trying to find the bigger connection versus just kind of maybe lumping it to that. But a lot of these guys, you know, that is where they're netting out. And again, like I said, I am playing this for you guys because I'm telling you, it is gaining enormous momentum and steam out there. And again, this is not from the liberal left. All right, dude, Greg Stoker, man, I owe him for that. I'm really clear on this now. It is not from the liberal left. It is from inside MAGA, like Trump fans. I mean, he's got fans. He's definitely got more fans than I do. But like these are the cracks in his diehards. I mean, seriously. And like I said, I'm telling you, I know where to look. And I'm following all these profiles, and you know, when they post, oh, here's the other thing. Like when Luke posts something, it's not one or two people that are chiming in. It's tens of thousands. Like it's insane. His engagement on his posts, like this one, are insane. And when you go on TikTok and you look at the profile pictures, here's the other thing. The profile pictures are not people with blue hair, okay? It is, it's white Americana. It is MAGA. I'm telling you, this is a storyline that it's becoming zesty. All right, so next he goes into RFK Jr., and there's more to come on RFK Jr. You know, he's involved in this whole, again, I don't know how many follow this, but there's a gal named Jessica Reed Krause. She goes by, oh man, I just had that burp thing again. She goes by the handle House and Habit. She kind of has been in the throes of fire because she tried to take down Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, and Ian Carroll. I think I talked about this before, but those three have something in common, and it goes along the lines of everything Luke is talking about. So needless to say, House and Habit gal has just been crucified. And then the RFK Jr. stuff, I'm going to talk about this a little bit more next week, but here's a good setup.
You have Robert Kennedy, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, making posts about how anti-Semitism is a real health concern in America. This is absolutely batshit crazy. And now you've raised it up to the level of you're gonna lose all of us when you attack the only American first person in our Congress. Literally the only person in America that doesn't have an AIPAC handler, that isn't controlled by AIPAC, or doesn't have some crazy leftist liberal agenda. This is the real deal right here, and you have Donald Trump threatening to primary him. It's the crescendo of what's been going on. There is one country on this earth that you cannot protest and you cannot talk about in the United States of America. And no, it's not the United States of America. And everyone's waking up. We're all waking up. This is it. And I'm telling you right now, if 4 more years of this Israel first agenda takes place, if we truly become the United States of Israel over the next 4 years, with Trump making jokes about developing Gaza, if he continues down this path, he will lose all of our support. The corruption used to go to all kinds of countries all over the world. Now the corruption just goes to one country. And it is going to be so obvious and clear to the American people, if we have 4 more years of this Israel first, this will be a shoo-in. He will be the president, or someone like him will be president. Not some crazy leftist who hates Israel.
See, everybody uses that term wrong. I had to correct Luke. It's not a leftist that hates Israel. It's the liberal that hates Israel. And that's true. And by the way, I don't know if anybody really understands that better than I do. I don't really know why that is. I don't know. I'll have to look at that. Like, why do the liberals, even Obama, like obviously Obama is the king of that side and the king of the Democrat side. And again, I mean, supposedly I don't know if I want to say hate. Well, actually, maybe hate. There's a lot of stuff out there that shows Obama, obviously not happy with Netanyahu. That makes sense to me because, again, Netanyahu's party is the right-wing Likud party. And so, obviously, if you are a left-wing Democrat in the United States, you probably don't like a right-wing Likud party in Israel, who again is positioned as our greatest ally and all that. But I'll have to try to understand that disconnect, or I should say that I don't know what, no, disconnect's not the right word, but that disdain that the liberal Democrats have, not leftists. Remember, I'm going to correct that every time. All right, let's let Luke David finish out. That's like such a Christian name, Luke David.
But somebody who's honest enough to say, hey, that's not our country. Their laws are not our laws. You can boycott a foreign country in the United States of America. It's the most un-American thing in the world to tell people, you can't boycott Israel. You can't have criticisms of Israel. I don't know what Trump is doing. I have no idea where he's going with this. But he's losing me. This is the kind of people we need in our government. If I was running for Congress, this is exactly how I would be, and this is exactly how I would vote. Stop spending money we do not have, and stop giving our money to foreign countries, period.
So the he kept talking about, again, remembers Thomas Massie. Man, Thomas Massie might have a run at presidency. But again, for me, this... let's just call him this bigger power. I don't really want to try to decide exactly who that is right now, but it definitely does exist. It definitely does exist, whether it's what these guys think or whether, like I said, it's some entity that, quite frankly, I can't say I totally have my finger on and am able to sort of give you their roster. The bottom line is I do think they exist. And so he touched on RFK Jr., obviously, those clips were geared around Trump. I will bring some stuff about Elon next week. And, it's funny. I have like 10 more of these clips from major conservative MAGA influencers that have huge followings. And collectively, they have enormous followings. I mean, collectively, of all these people, you could be upwards of like 10 to 20 million. But I just realized we're at 38 minutes. So anyway, that is it, man. All right. I hope this was enlightening. I hope this was a good week of episodes. Feel free to give me feedback. What else do you want to hear about? I will say Monday or Tuesday, I'll release the interview with the Dowd brothers. It's a fascinating interview. They're super authentic and good guys. I also did an interview with a guy, Pastor Dr. Bob Thiel. He's a pastor and a doctor. Super nice guy, like salt of the earth Christian pastor. That one was super interesting. So next week we might have those 2 interviews. But all right, that's it, man. Call a spade, strap in. Things are going to get bumpy and stock market's a mess and crypto's dropped and I think prices are going to go up. And so I don't know, man. Let's see what happens. All right, get your steps in this weekend. Get healthy, eat good food, try some peanut butter on strawberries, and call a spade a spade.
That was a great way to end it.
This episode was brought to you by the new book, Deep Shallow Dive Into You, available now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble in hardcover and paperback. Don't forget to sign up for our new mailing list on our website at deepshallowdive.com.